Whatever. All right. We're going to go. We're going. We're running. I'm recording the video already. Here we go. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the GGG Podcast, episode 50, the big 5-0. It's October now. We're getting into the holiday season. Some more games are going to be coming at us quickly, but for this week it's been a pretty slow news week, so we've got an interesting show for you because we got a variety of different news topics to get through. But before we do, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're watching the video version, and if you're watching the audio version over, or not watching but listening to the audio version over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, follow us there as well. We'd appreciate it. So Phil, last week you did not have a lot of time for video games. Did you have more time this week?
Well, yeah, no, we had some time together to play the finals.
We did.
What a blast that was.
I'm glad you had fun. I'm really glad you had fun. So,
it turns out that when you're playing with someone who's really good at the game, you have a good time, and so I did have a good time. But additionally, I played a bunch of multiverses, and I think I need to stop for a while.
Oh. Really?
The game is kind of like, the meta is effed right now.
Why is the meta effed? Tell me all about it.
Basically, you just play as Batman and win. Like, Batman's in this point where he could just do infinite uppercuts and carry you off the stage, like in the first 5 seconds of the match.
Oh my god! Wow.
That
not even the Powerpuff Girls can counter that.
Not even the Powerpuff Girls are surprisingly decently balanced for being new.
Okay,
but holy smokes, it is so upsetting to be immediately just taken out with no recourse. So I'm just like, okay, no more for this game. Not till they balance it. Maybe not for a year or so, if the game even still exists.
Oh, it'll still exist in a year. Come on, it's doing pretty well. You bought or no, you didn't buy the battle pass. You earned the battle pass. Yeah. I
earned the battle. Ooh.
Okay, all right.
Played too many hours of that game. Additionally, I'm trying to think of what else I played. I will say what I've spent some time doing is playing with my Magic cards. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of piles on my desk about this big, and I look like a crazy person because I'm trying to organize and into making some new decks. So that's been my main focus this past week.
Okay. All right.
What have you been playing?
I mean, more Space Marine. I'm still grinding. From everything that Saber Interactive has been saying, the first season, or I guess the second season, is starting in October, although we haven't gotten a clear date. So now that it's actually October, I'm like, ooh, when is it going to be? But it could very well be October 31st. So we just don't know
technically in October.
But apparently they're supposed to be adding multiple PvE missions, new weapons, and new skins and cosmetics and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that over in Space Marine. Played a little bit of Helldivers, trying to make progress through the poisonous warbond. I keep forgetting the name of this warbond for whatever reason. But yeah, making progress through the poison warbond. So that's been fun. And then I've been playing the finals. Season 4 of the finals is out. I'm glad that you hopped on and played it with me. I played again on Monday, I believe, and streamed again. That went pretty well, and the finals actually picking up some steam now. It's active players is going back up. Not insane numbers, but going back up, and then it's streamers on Twitch are going up as well. It was dwindling in the 500 streams right now, and now it's over 5K. So that's a big improvement. So I'm happy about that.
It's no surprise. It's a good looking game, and it's I think it's the gameplay is involving enough that it is fun to watch and good looking at the same time. So it's kind of that magical zone that Rocket League very stylistically you would sit in, or
it's
Fortnite
super sporty.
It's
super sporty, super fun to watch. If anything, I want more announcers and crowd reactions. Let's turn those up. I forgot the developers who make the finals, but yeah. So I've been playing that. I haven't played a lot of Frostpunk 2. I figured out how the game works, which took way too much time. But I am now like, I understand it. I'm still playing on the easiest difficulty, by the way, and there's 4 difficulties.
I thought you were going to say I figured out how to enjoy that game.
Yes, I also did figure out how to do that. But yeah, I haven't played any of some of this week's first releases, the new releases, which is Starfield Shattered Space, which just came out. I own this because I foolishly bought the Ultimate Edition of Starfield back when it came out last year. But I have not gotten a chance to play it yet. I'm probably going to play it later today or later this week. So people it's getting lukewarm reactions from most of the internet. For those people who don't know much about the DLC, it is based around the Varun, which is one of the factions in Starfield, but noticeably largely missing in Starfield. You're like, where is this other faction who has this embassy in the main area? That's weird that I can't visit them. So I'm glad they're finishing the game. And you have to pay for that finished game. But people are really liking it because most of the DLC, I think there's some new systems and new planets, but most of the story is based on a singular planet, which is the Varun homeworld. And because of that, people are like, oh, it feels like Fallout or it feels like Skyrim because I'm exploring a designed planet as opposed to a procedurally generated slice of a biome, which is what you're usually doing, or you're fast traveling back and forth everywhere. So I'm curious to play it. I have specifically prepped my character to play this DLC story wise. So I've gone ahead to do that. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Have you watched the trailer for Shattered Space or have any curiosity at all about this after all my Starfield ramblings?
Tiny bit of curiosity. I know that if anyone's going to play Starfield in this world, it's going to be you for some reason. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud to know you and to know the man who's courageously diving back into Starfield to mine some form of joy out of it. But all the things that you've said about this DLC are things that I like. Like I just did a show for a board game of Elder Scrolls that is like based in that world. It was a lot like Gloomhaven. And one of the things that I realized I enjoyed so much about the Elder Scrolls games was their storytelling, diegetically, environmentally. There's so much that that Bethesda has done a great job of packing into their worlds. I remember in Morrowind, this is going to be a bit of a tangent. I remember the first time I played Morrowind, I found this dude who had like a spell on him that was like a spell of walking on wind or whatever. So he could basically fly, but he was a dead body, and I don't know. I think actually you see him fall, or you hear something like thud, and then you find him. It's a dead body who had this scroll. So he figured out how to fly, how to walk on air, but didn't know when the spell expired, so he just dropped to his death. And it was a really fun little way of like learning how that worked. And BioWare was full of like those, not BioWare, Bethesda was full of all those little like secrets and hidden interesting things to find. And I feel like Starfield had some of that, but so little, and I felt like I didn't want to really dig to find any of it because it was all so far and spaced apart, and like I had to go to several menus to catch anything. My favorite mission was the Mantis mission, which was like, oh, here's some storytelling.
Right.
But that was kind of the only one that was like that outside of the main story missions. All that to say, I think Bethesda is best when they kind of give you one thing to explore and do, because they pack a bunch of stuff in there. So if this is more of that, I'm in. I believe I also got sucked into like the Ultimate Edition to play it a couple days early because Game Pass. But yeah,
I mean, I like Starfield. I think there's tons of problems with it, as I've gone back and forth so many times on this podcast about. But I think Bethesda has always been very good at building universes. It's just how you experience the universe in Starfield is lacking. But yeah, I'm really curious. I do feel like this was a missing part of the game, and so I'm excited to discover things that I didn't know. And I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens. I think also like this is a minor spoiler alert for Starfield players, but not really. But I think when I played it, I was a little sick. I was a little multiverse worn out. And so it's like where the story was about there being multiverses, I was just like, I'm sick of this. Or like everything is a multiverse now. Like I get it. So Rick and Morty really made this popular 10 years ago, and everyone ran with it. So yeah, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to play it. Hopefully, I'll be able to report on it on our next podcast when I've actually gotten some time to sit down and play with it. But let's move on to our next major release this week, and that is Throne and Liberty, the unknown free-to-play MMO you've never heard of until recently. This game came out yesterday, I believe. They bought the front page of IGN, so it was plastered all over gaming media sites for the last couple of days. And I'll be honest, it looks like a pretty run-of-the-mill fantasy MMO, RPG kind of Elder Scrolls Online-esque slash what was that? The New World, esque type game. And it's had a pretty successful launch. It hasn't supplanted any of the big MMOs, but it has a lot of concurrent players to start out with, which is good for them. But I don't know. I see this gameplay, I see this game, and it looks a little generic to me. And I'm not trying to be harsh, when I say that, but I just don't know what's different about this game that I haven't done in so many other games, especially MMOs. So I don't know. Is there any interest here for you, Phil? Any glimmer of hope, or is this just another free-to-play time killer?
There's two things that bum me out, I guess, about the concept of this, and it's a free-to-play game and that it's an MMO. So kind of everything about this game is a bummer to me.
Okay.
I feel like free-to-play games are very much about like just trying to get you to stay in that space and then manipulating you into spending money by making things arduously long or holding you back from doing something just so you can pay to close that gap. That sucks for me. MMORPGs are all about grinding. So imagine in World of Warcraft when you had to go get 30 Rustborn pelts or whatever, and all of a sudden it could be 300, or you can pay to get 10 times the amount that you normally get. That's just the fear for me. Outside of that, it also looks a lot like Lineage 2, which is like an MMO that's been around for probably 15 years, It just looks old. It doesn't look terribly old. It just doesn't look great. And the concept of an MMO is always very exciting to me. Like, oh, we're all going to exist in this world and like play together. But the result of which is you just always, for me, I'm going on a bit of a soapbox tangent, you feel non-special because you walk up to a quest giver and there's 45 other people standing there clipping into each other, all getting the same quest and then jumping and running away. And you're stuck with this feeling of like, what I'm doing doesn't actually matter.
Yeah. I don't know. For this gameplay, I feel like because of what you were just talking about with the long grind that is built into these, I'm like, I'd rather just play Dragon Age where like there's a story that I can experience. I'm getting that medieval, vibe, because honestly, like I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of craving some fantasy RPG thing, but I was like, but Dragon Age is around the corner. That's what I'm gonna play.
I can wait for that.
Yeah, exactly.
I definitely think there is, like, I like the fact that in their trailer they have like goblins. They've got like a very traditional looking fantasy setting, but now being an adult with pretty limited time, I think, oh, well, I got this cool Masterworks iron armor, and that only cost me 350 laughs of my loved ones that I missed, or 45 smiles from my mother's face. I I don't know, the grind just bums me out in these types of games, especially free to play. Just scary combination.
Yeah.
Maybe it's really good.
I mean, we'll see. Stellar Blade had huge success. And that's based. I mean, obviously it's a shooter, so it's a little bit different. So
Wait, Stellar Blade, or I think that one is the. Hold on, I think Stellar Blade.
The sexy free to play shooter, Stellar Blade.
Is that the one?
What are you thinking of?
Oh no, Stellar Blade isn't a free to play shooter. It's like a $70 game.
My bad. What is the one that I'm thinking of? The First Descendant. That's what I'm thinking of.
The First Descendant.
I'm so
yes.
sorry. Thank you for that correction. The First Descendant.
The characters on that are pretty Stellar Blade adjacent.
That's what was happening. It was an aesthetic cross wire in my brain. All right, well, let's get into the news for this week. Fans of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series should be very excited to learn that the series is going to continue. A couple years ago, we got some remakes, some remasters of some of the older Tony Hawk Pro Skater games, and although the license and the game and the companies have all gone through transformations and whatnot, it seems like the series is going to continue in the hands of what is now known as Blizzard Albany, which I didn't even know that Blizzard owned this, but apparently they do now. But yeah, because I think it was an Activision game. So anyway, it's Blizzard Albany is going to be working on Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and it's going to be apparently a new game. It's not going to be a remake or a remaster or anything like that. So that's pretty exciting. Maybe it's just that I'm not a kid anymore. Is skateboarding as popular as it was like when we were growing up? Do you feel like that?
I don't, Paul. You're asking what the kids are up to. I have no idea. No, I do think skateboarding. Okay, when you and I were in middle school, high school, skateboarding was at its zenith in popularity.
Oh yeah,
everyone cared. Everyone gave a crap who won. It was Bob Burnquist. Was it Tony Hawk? Was it Andy Mullen? Just the fact that I remembered those names is a testament to how burned into my psyche that all that nonsense was. But now I feel like the last really popular skating video game we had wasn't even a Tony Hawk game. It was Skate 2. I feel like people still play that, and I think we're kind of at this point in skating where it is kind of back to where it was that's right before it spawned into this very, very big popular thing, which is people skate for fun. More often than not, you're going to see people on scooters now or on rollerblades. It's just sort of all that extreme sport stuff is in the same sort of mush pile that occupies maybe 30% of teens. So I don't think that a big Tony Hawk resurgence is ever going to happen because skating is just not what it was at that time. It was a very particular time when the entire world was it's like you're surfing on land. Red Bull loves it. Now we're just kind of oh yeah, we remember that. My knees hurt still because of that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like gaming is so big now that they can carve out their little skateboarder niche. But I don't know. I kind of bundle this in. I'm a huge fan of Riders Republic, one of Ubisoft's only recent successes, in my opinion. And I just think that game is awesome. Just being an open world game and having all of the different gameplay mechanics in it, from mountain biking to snowboarding and skiing and paragliding and just all of the different stuff that they have in there. But I guess there is no skateboard in Riders Republic, if I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I guess it's nice to see an old face again, if that makes any sense. But it's I'm not interested. I'm good. If I want that sporty experience, I'm going to Riders Republic for that.
What was the other game? There was another game that was a lot like that, except it was snowboarding and things. It was
excuse me.
Oh, bless you. It was something like that, but it was basically Riders Republic, slightly before Riders Republic. It wasn't Ubisoft, but you were either like snowboarding, skiing. You could put on a wingsuit. Steep is what it's
Steep.
called.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the future. Even in Tony Hawk Pro Skater Underground 2, they introduced parkour mechanics that you could do to get around. So they were already toying with the idea of like, okay, we can't just be a skating game because it's kind of boring. It almost feels like if pinball were to have like a really like we're expecting pinball to become mainstream again when
Right.
pinball is just for pinball's time, and then there's people who still love it, but it's never going to be the massive thing it was that controlled consoles or controlled in pinball's case arcades anymore.
Sure. Sure. All right. Well, speaking of Blizzard, not Blizzard Albany, but Blizzard, apparently they are working on another Starcraft shooter. And I say another, not that one has released in the past, but because they have actually tried working on Starcraft shooters before, particularly with Nova, as I think that was the last one that they tried working on, where Nova was the main character for people who are familiar with the character of Nova from the StarCraft series. So yeah, I'm a little bewildered by this, and this is my continued skepticism of Blizzard and how they don't really seem like they have any plan or know what they're doing right now. I don't get this. First of all, it's like we haven't seen anything from StarCraft in like what 10 years, maybe a little less than that. So it's another franchise they've been sleeping on, and honestly, when StarCraft 2 was popular, they were the number one RTS out there. And like, it is an arcadey RTS. It's not like a realistic RTS like you'd find in like Total War or anything like that. So it's like king of the arcadey RTS, I guess is a niche, but I feel like it's a pretty big niche, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact
The
that
entire country of Korea, or South Korea specifically, agrees.
yes. And so like, I don't really understand where they're like, we need to make this into a shooter. And like, is it a multiplayer shooter that you're making? In which case it's like, you have Overwatch, like do something with Overwatch if that's what you're going to do. And I don't know. It just feels like they're spinning their wheels. They don't know what to do. This may be a project that never sees the light of day. I'm just curious as to like, why are we hearing about this? Like, is this really what they're working on?
Blizzard feels like the kid who has too many toys, and you're like, but you have your mountain bike. Why don't you want to play with that? No, I want to play with my race car. Okay, you have a race car. Oh, it's just boring. Like, there's so many cool things they could be doing. StarCraft Ghost. I don't know if you remember that. It was a third-person game that was like a stealthy game that you're supposed to play as. I can't remember her name.
It's Nova. That's what I was talking about.
That's Nova? Okay.
I believe so.
And just came and went. Granted, listen, Blizzard, you want to do something cool? Let Activision make a Call of Duty style StarCraft shooter. I'm on board. That's something new for both of you. Super in. But I just feel like you said, they've got Overwatch, they've got Warcraft, which to be fair, Warcraft is pumping out, and they've got so many different properties, Diablo, all just firing, and they really just got to get back on the horse with it. I don't know. I guess I'm excited to see them do something with StarCraft. The more I'm talking about it, the more I'm like, it's such a cool universe. I want to see more from it, even if it is a shooter. But just make StarCraft 3.
Yeah. So just to go to this article. So apparently, StarCraft Ghost got canceled. That's what we were talking about. And then StarCraft Ares, which was another StarCraft shooter, was canceled in 2019. And then, and now they're reportedly working on another StarCraft shooter. So this is the third attempt at trying to do this, and we've never gotten to play it. And so, like, and according to this article, and this is from GameSpot.com, that they are not at all. They have not been working at StarCraft 3. Microsoft has not made the decision to have them work on Starcraft 3. And so they're hoping that with Starcraft Remastered and Starcraft 2 coming out as like Game Pass titles in November, that this will, stimulate the Starcraft fan base, and then they can actually move forward with working on the game. But it's just work on the game. Just pull like it was a huge success. I don't know why you're not working on a new version of it. I don't know.
I feel like the head ups of Microsoft are like, a StarCraft game. I know those were popular then, but no one else is doing anything like it right now. So there's no chance it would be popular.
It's
like I
just
think
like
we're all kind of clamoring for that type of game.
Yeah, it's like how many times have I said like, I want an RTS that actually plays well. And honestly, Microsoft, you're only competing with yourself because, again, aside from the Total War games, the only real like RTS competitor out there right now is like Age of Empires, and that's not that popular. And Microsoft, you own Age of Empires, so anyway, I'm a little bit disappointed by this. I hopefully we'll get an actual StarCraft 3 announcement soon, but I don't know that that's likely at this moment. So, yes.
Well, speaking of things from our youth, both being StarCraft and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, let's talk about PlayStation's 30th year anniversary model.
Okay.
And how all of them got immediately bought up. Who would have thought? By scalpers. Because why don't you have any protections in place, Sony? You don't care as long as they're sold, huh? Sorry.
I mean, how do you protect against that stuff now? Because like this has been a problem with tickets and stuff like that as well. And so like I don't know what to if you have a bot that can get past a bot test.
I mean, for me, send a certain amount to physical retailers. Like, send a good amount to physical retailers and help reinvigorate that. Like I get that they're trying to box out GameStop because of the like resales. Totally. The GameStop's making a lot of money on just used games. But like send some to your big box stores and have them be like, you want to come get this? Come physically get it in person and you can do all this stuff. I guess the problem is they don't really care about scalpers seemingly, which is understandable.
Right.
But it sucks. It also, screw you scalpers. You had to pay $1,000 for a machine that I think when the price of the 30th anniversary model came out, everyone was excited because they're like, damn, PS5 Pro is $700. And they saw this and were like, I'd pay $700 for that. And the price was revealed for that, and it was $1,000.
Yeah.
So I hope they just sit with them. I hope they keep them forever.
Yeah, if you're out there and you really want that PlayStation, don't pay a scalper for it because it just reinforces that behavior, which is really shitty. Yeah, I mean, I remember having a huge problem getting a PS5 when they launched because of this, and I was really pissed off about it. But it's just, I feel like it's something that we really don't have a way of regulating. I think that the coming to get it physically in person is an interesting idea, Phil. But I feel like even with that, it's like if Sony sent PlayStations to Best Buy, Best Buy can still make the decision, oh, well, we're going to sell these online.
Sure,
you know, like it's not up, necessarily up to them. So, I don't know. This has been a persistent problem, especially in the event space. With scalping, like people like trying to go see Taylor Swift, and somebody Ticketmaster allows them to buy 1,000 tickets, and then they take those 1,000 tickets and like sell them for 3 times the value, and so it's just ridiculous, and it's a problem, and I would say there needs to be laws regulating how many I don't know if it's like a commodity, if that's what you would call it, but like a law regulating how much one person can buy. And if people are using multiple accounts and multiple emails, then you need to be tracking where they are being shipped to. And if there are 100 different accounts that ordered, these PlayStations, but they're all going to the same address,
maybe that's a red flag.
Yeah, we have technology at this point that should be able to see that and be like, oh, okay, we're not actually going to sell this to this person.
Honestly, you could hire a person to do like purchase verification.
Yeah, something
like for each region, just have someone be like, oh, this one popped up on our list as like, oh, this is suspicious. Let me check it out.
Yeah.
I think what you said, there should be laws. I agree. I think one of the things is when industries don't regulate themselves, they are just asking to be regulated by someone else. Mm-hmm. And this is that to the nth degree. Sony don't care. Sony just put out 100,000 consoles, and
they sold them.
So. They sold them. They're gone. Mm-hmm. I will say that 30th anniversary model goes hard.
It does. One. It looks great. I want one, but I ain't paying no scalper for that. That's ridiculous.
I wasn't going to pay $900 for that. And then all of a sudden I'm probably going to have to pay $12 to $15 now? Absolutely not. Even if I had the money, even if it would cost me nothing to have the money to be able to pay $1,500 and not worry about it, I would still consider it a huge waste of money.
Fair. Very fair. All right. Well, let's press on to the next story. So, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Phil called it, has been delayed until it's looking like February next year. But as Phil very accurately reported at the Tokyo Game Show, Ubisoft pulled Assassin's Creed Shadows from being shown. We didn't know why at the time when we were reporting on it last week on the podcast, but Phil did, because he was like, "This is delayed." And you're correct. Do you feel gratified? Do you feel vindicated? What's going through your mind right now?
There's a lot to say about being a cutting edge game journalist now. But I believe in brevity, so yes, I do feel vindicated. I feel like a genius. No, I am bummed because I wanted to play Assassin's Creed Shadows, and I'm also bummed because I think people are like thinking this is due to backlash to Yasuke being in the game. Like, there's so many different things buzzing around about this game, and I am excited for the game to eventually come out, because this delay means it's probably going to be better. Granted, it has been 3-4 years since we got a big mainline Assassin's Creed game. I don't count Mirage.
Yeah, I was thinking about Valhalla.
That launched with the PS5, I think.
I think it was 2021. I want to say
maybe it was a year after.
Yeah. So, but still a long time for an Assassin's Creed game. So
yeah. So it will, by the time we get this new one, it will have been at least 5 or 4 calendar years of 2021 to 2025. Granted, I think it's coming out February 14th, so Valentine's Day.
So probably not going to have a lot of time to play on that day.
Yeah, I'm going to be too busy in Japan.
Ooh.
No play for me. No. But yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about this? I'm always kind of in favor of a delay. There's more games for me to play. I'm not super hung up about it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors going on. I agree. I think the delay is best because what we've discovered over this last week of leaks and just comments and reports on this, it's just that the developers were pushing for the delay because they felt that the game was not going to be ready, and so, which is good. It that's honest. It means that we need to keep working on this. So a delay this minor tells me that this was a compromise delay. Because it's not that big of a difference. It was releasing in November and now it's releasing in February. Are those 3 months? Because with the holidays, you're going to lose a lot of work days in there. And so it's like, is that really a big delay? To me, that's hot fixes,
Yeah.
So it was a compromise delay. And I think that the problem right now is that Ubisoft is in bad shape. And I think that at the end of the fiscal quarter next year, we're going to see a bunch of layoffs. And we were already seeing that there's an investigation internally at Ubisoft as to why things are not getting done on time and everything like that. And I think things are not getting done on time because you guys have been pumping out games constantly, and you have all of these different studios all over the world trying to coordinate with each other. And so I think that Ubisoft maybe needs to take a step back and scale down. Obviously Outlaws didn't perform how they wanted it to. I still think that they're going to get a Christmas bump because it's a Star Wars game. It's, parents are going to be in the store and they're going to be like, oh, Star Wars, Timmy likes Star Wars, I'll buy this. So I still think they're going to continue to sell that game, and it's going to do well. It's just not the home run that they financially wanted. And I feel like the developers saw Outlaws do okay, and they were like, now they're going to look at Assassin's Creed to be the home run, and if it's not a home run, are we in danger of losing our jobs? And so that's what I think is going on. I think a delay is always the right thing to do if you don't think it's ready. And yes, we have had an Assassin's Creed break and reprieve, but look how long the development of a lot of good games is. You need more time because games are getting more and more complicated, and there's more and more factors and more standards that you have to hit. Otherwise you're going to get some, bitchy player complaining about some stupid feature, like myself.
This raises a kind of interesting point for me, because I feel like we are at a point in games where things are maybe bloated and over complex. You look at Starfield, for example. Bethesda took their sweet old time bringing that one out. And I would say, as someone who's played all of the Elder Scrolls games that were on consoles, it did feel like there was a lot more jam packed into those that came out in 4-year intervals. And I feel like sort of the pressure can sometimes build up with these companies, so they feel like this new Assassin's Creed needs to be everything in one game. Much like Valhalla was a 120 plus hour game.
So much.
Yeah, they're just sort of bloating to the point of ridiculousness. And some of the biggest games right now are Dark and Darker, which is graphically very simple, but gameplay wise not super complex, but just complex enough to be interesting. And I think a lot of game developers are struggling to find something that is interesting and complex, and so they're just throwing in a ton of really cool, interesting details, but just features and gimmicks. But at the end of the day, it's never just adding up to something that sets the world on fire. And I think Ubisoft is 100% in that place. Their Star Wars game, you know how much money they paid for that IP to license it to make that game?
Yeah.
I think it sold 100 million. It didn't sell, maybe it was just one. It didn't sell a lot of copies.
Yeah. I mean, it sold well if you were a AA game or if you're an indie game, but not when you dump that amount of financial resources into it. And I'm sure Disney wasn't happy with the sales either. So
well, and come Black Friday, that game will be at least half off. At least Ubisoft games, they're always by Black Friday 40 to 60% off.
Maybe. I don't know. I feel like the Star Wars license is going to keep the game. I feel like we're going to see one of those, oh, it's 15% off. So it's you're saving $10. You're like, okay, cool.
Oh, good.
So we'll see.
Does that make the game an 8? No? Okay, good.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's interesting. I think, this could be the beginning of the end for Ubisoft. It could also just be, I don't want it to be, but I think they are going to go through a transformation over this next year, and we'll see how they come out of that. So
I hope this is their Katy Perry style fight song. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They go, they eat, pray, love. In Japan, they come back and they're a whole new company.
Yeah. They say, no more, we're not making another Far Cry game. We're done with that. We're so sorry we kept it alive for as long as we did. All right. Yes.
Speaking of Japan,
Oh.
let's talk about Death Stranding's new photo mode,
Okay.
Hideo Kojima's baby. I guess the reason that I made the connection to Japan is that the photo mode for Death Stranding video that I saw was in Japanese. That's it.
It wasn't Japanese. That was
Yeah,
the connection.
yeah.
Well, for people who haven't seen the photo mode for Death Stranding 2, it looks amazing, and it shows off 3 of the female characters in the game posing for photos with very realistic animations. Definitely, I think we both have the same thought with this, Phil. Definitely got some pervy connotations.
Oh yeah.
Some pervy connotations to it. So I think there's going to be some mods of this, and I think Kojima knows exactly what he's doing in showing this off. So
Those women are wearing puffy windbreakers, and it is horny as hell. It is rough. Not in a bad way. Like, I don't know. It just feels very interesting considering the setting of Death Stranding.
yeah,
Granted, Death Stranding was also the game where like you took a Monster Energy break every day and like hung out with Guillermo del Toro wearing a suit. So it is tonally a very like symbolic game, I guess is the way to say
obscure.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that said, hoofa doofa. It's so okay. To recap, I guess here's good radio.
Okay.
Recapping what I saw in the photo mode trailer is it's sort of like you are set up as if you were with a camera watching people pose in the area of some different areas of the game. And they are interacting like, with a staircase. Some of them are sitting on it. They're leaning on the banister, but they're moving in real time. And you're trying to capture the photos as if they were modeling for you
Yeah.
and like doing different poses. And so you have to like catch them at the exact right time, which I think super interesting for a photo mode. I think that is a brilliant sort of like gamifying what it actually is to take a photo and to have someone as like sort of a posed figure. That's it. That is all exciting to me.
I mean, yeah, the graphics, as always, Kojima games always have good graphics, but I think the graphics look fantastic, and the fluidity of the animation and movement. I'm curious to whether it was mocapped or not. I don't know, or the just animations are just that good. So it looks really good. I'm not a big Death Stranding guy. I do own the first one. I think I might try to play through it before the second one comes out, just for research and for my general gamer knowledge. But yeah, I don't. It just seems like sexy ladies posing to me. That's the vibe that I'm. And there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
it's I can definitely tell why this got traction on the internet. So.
It's also, like we said, weird in a game that's kind of about this weird post-apocalypse where everyone is trying to connect, like, for the sake of their lives.
Right.
But one last note, the photos that are the result of this, like, whatever filters they throw on them, they look so realistic. Like, the end result looks like a photograph that's printed out of an old Polaroid.
Yes, very, very impressive, honestly. Yeah, the visuals are incredible. All right, so let's move on to our next topic. So Suicide Squad Season 3 has launched, and 3 people are excited for it.
That's right. You, me, and you, listener. It's welcome to Suicide Pod. The Suicide Squad fan pod. Okay, so Season 3, to WB's credit, they have lived up to releasing new characters every season. Season 1 was the Joker. Season 2, we had an alt universe, Mrs. Freeze. And Season 3, we got Lawless, who is Floyd Lawson or Deathshot's daughter.
I'm not familiar with her. Does she have superpowers, or is she just also good at shooting things?
Kind of. She's like a tech Robin Hood style person in Gotham.
Okay.
And she found some Brainiac tech that allows her to fall or manipulate gravity and then also like fall in any direction. So she can kind of do the gravity rush thing where she falls upwards and then falls forward at enemies.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. All seems super interesting, but also not enough to save this game.
Yeah, like Lawless sounds like a cool character and it sounds like a cool mechanic, but it's also just like I've never heard of that character before. At
Hmm.
least like the Joker for the first season was like, oh, okay, that's a good addition. You know, the Mrs. Freeze is like, oh, okay, I've never seen that twist on it before, but that's still a cool addition. You're working with a
Hmm.
new element, you get to freeze things. But I think at this point, it's like you need like a cheetah or something in there, more like, I don't know, a bigger villain, I guess, to be on the Suicide
I
Squad.
think you need someone like all of the comments I saw immediately after it were give us Deathstroke. And I definitely believe that that is like such a solid villain for them to add into this world.
Yeah, or like Lex Luthor Power Suit.
Yeah.
Like I think that would have been because Lex Luthor Power Suit is a popular villain. Like
Hmm.
I don't know if he dies in the game or I don't know the story exactly in the Suicide Squad game. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is I think this is going to be the last update for the game if I'm remembering correctly. That they only guaranteed that it would keep going through season 3. Is that correct, Phil?
I believe you are correct there, sir. It is a huge bummer. Well, I think there is one more bit that they have planned to do. And according to leaks, that is like you find this world's actual Justice League, and you have to like rescue them from Brainiac. They were all being held captive.
Uh,
Um, so to sort of save themselves the opportunity to do more Arkham verse games in the future.
sure.
But I do feel like the damage is almost irreparably done at this point.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know. The game is it was very similar to Concord. It was just a failure to launch. Just people hated on it from the beginning. Should not have been a live service game. You added all this grind and this nonsense, and it's like people they really didn't learn anything from the Avengers, and
Yeah.
like
You know what's messed up is the Avengers is better than this game.
it
Like
is the Avengers
I
is
downloaded
better
it and
than
I
this
played it
game.
again, and the Avengers is like it's you've got character combos and everybody does their own special thing to a degree that does not occur in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Yeah.
It is bananas that like Avengers wasn't enough and it was still decent, but not enough I
Well,
think to
it had a
keep the
really
general
rough
public.
launch. Like it was glitchy as hell when that game came out, and I think that with how snap judgment a lot of gamers are now, it's just like if you have a bad launch, they're not going to give you the time of day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, people aren't patient that they're going to wait for a hot fix or anything like that. They're just going to move on to the next thing, or they're going to go back to playing Overwatch or Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Well, I
so
think there's not even ill intent in that, right? That's the crazy thing is I think of myself playing a game and I'm usually pretty excited for like, oh, a new thing. Let me get a taste. But if it just isn't there, if just there's a couple things that don't grab me, if that is bugs that set me back too much or just not an interesting setting, yeah, I will dip out and move on to the next thing or move back to something that I like.
right.
So just gamers in general, our attention spans are pretty short.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, you still got people who just go back to the comfort food of playing Overwatch and everything like that. So, so yeah, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, Suicide Squad, games as a service. Take a note, WB. Looking at you, looking at Mortal Kombat. So last bit of news for us this week. So some more Horizon. And Horizon by the PlayStation series I'm referring to, Zero Dawn and Forbidden West and what have you. So it appears that Sony's really leaning into expanding this franchise and this universe, as we discussed previously on the podcast. Their Lego Horizon is coming out later this year, which is super interesting and surprisingly, from what everyone's been saying, is actually a really good game. So I'm curious to see if that's true or not. It's probably just a kid's game, so it's probably not for me, but that's what I said about Astro. So So
And
yeah,
Astro is freaking incredible.
but in the news this week, apparently Guerrilla Games is working on a cooperative online Horizon game. No idea whether there will be any kind of competitive element to it yet. We really don't have a lot of details, but we have confirmed that they are working on a multiplayer game that is based in the Horizon universe, and it will be released before we see Horizon 3. So this is a little interesting, and I'm kind of wondering if they're trying to encroach on the Monster Hunter market here, which I know you are a huge Monster Hunter fan. I prefer Horizon to Monster Hunter, but the difference there being is that Horizon is single player and you don't have a lot of that grind that you have in Monster Hunter. And so I feel like in Horizon, when you actually like shoot something, it does a proper amount of damage, and you can have a fight with something that lasts 5 minutes, whereas in Monster Hunter you're having a fight that lasts 20 minutes. And so, but
I love it.
yeah, and I get that for Monster Hunter because a lot of times you're playing cooperatively, and so you have a lot of people going at a big fight, and so having a 20-minute fight makes a lot of sense. But I guess I like the speed of a single player game. So I'm the reason I bring this up is because I'm curious as to whether, if this is a cooperative Horizon game, are they going to go for the same format that Monster Hunter is going for, where it's cooperative, but now the fights are going to take a lot longer, and is it like a strike-based mission? I don't know. Are you just hunting monsters? Are you fighting people? Because in the Horizon games, you fight lots of people, especially in Forbidden West. So, what's your first reaction to hearing this news, Phil?
Well, my first reaction is, wow, Sony's still going to try to do games as a service games. That's crazy. That's crazy for them. But similarly, after you described it as them making like a Monster Hunter-like game with multiplayer, I would actually be very into that. One of my favorite things about Monster Hunter and about Horizon Zero Dawn is like killing monsters to get pieces to build yourself better armor, and then like seeing it represented on your body. And I think if they could go a little bit more in depth with like armor creation and like setting up traps, I would be very into it, because you're playing as people who are not Aloy. Like, Aloy is a legendary badass who's out there shooting their bows and arrows, exploding stuff. If you're playing like a more normal person who there needs to be 4 of you to take down one of those T-Rex robots, I'm kind of down with that. Or if you're just like, working up to that level, I'm down with that. I just think that Dauntless exists, God Eater exists. There are games that are Monster Hunter likes.
Right. Yes.
So even Dragon's Dogma to an extent is kind of a Monster Hunter like.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be terribly upset by this. I just think if Sony can really like commit to a live service, and I know they're very committed to Horizon, they're even putting it on Switch, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
If they're willing to commit to it, I'm in. It's going to take a while for people to get on board, most likely. But if it falls like right after I finish Monster Hunter Wilds and there's like a 6-month gap and then the next game comes out and I'm craving for that, sure, I'm in.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious how they're going to run this as a live service. To me, this doesn't. I'm sure they could do it, but is this going to be a Helldivers like type priced game? Because Helldivers is live service too, and that's working. It's just Concord that failed. So, like, is this a $40 Horizon game where you're playing for battle passes and stuff like that? So, yeah, I don't know. I really like the Horizon universe. But yes, similarly, it's like I like Horizon and Monster Hunter for different reasons. And like, I think in the single player Horizon, there's so much crafting you can do. There's so much, prep you can do with the traps, with the type of monster that you're hunting. It's very similar to Monster Hunter. If you do your research, you can kick something's ass. And that's a really satisfying feeling. But I'm curious how they're going to make the gameplay satisfying cooperatively. and encourage you to keep grinding. But I'm sure, I guess what I'm worried about, what I'm trying to articulate, is that I'm worried they're going to take the single player experience of Horizon and they're going to slow that progression down. So that you're just having to grind and grind and grind like you do in Monster Hunter. And I don't know that if I have the space for Monster Hunter Wilds and for Horizon, if they're both going to be slow, grindy, hunty games. So I guess that's my concern. But
I mean, I think I could see myself really digging into, okay, you're going after, I forget the names of all of the creatures in Horizon Zero Dawn. But, like, you need to prep these types of weapons.
For the Thunderjaw.
For the Thunderjaw, so that the fight, like, so you have a chance in the fight, which kind of is the case in Horizon. But in Horizon, like I said, Aloy is such a total BA that you can just kind of walk out there and be like, all right, I'm going to figure this out.
Right.
So I wouldn't mind, again, it's a little bit more grimy and, like, realistic from that point of view. Yeah. I'm kind of excited for it now, more so than I was just reading the announcement. Just based on your pitch, I was even going to be like, how would this game, like, work? How would a Horizon game work from this perspective? But the way you described it really kind of got me excited.
Well, good. I think, and if they don't go the full Monster Hunter route, which I hope they're able to, be unique a little bit, like, I think it'd be interesting just to have, like, strike missions or something like that, where it's like, instead of hunting a specific big monster, this mission is about you have to defend this village from waves of littler monsters, from, like, the Robo Velociraptors in the second game. So, like, if they're able to just have some mission variety, so it doesn't look like just a Monster Hunter clone, I think that will be it'll be all the better for it. So
it's sort of like Ghost of Tsushima's multiplayer mode. If they can get something that approaches that, I'd also be very, very on board.
I could see that. Yeah. Right on. All right. Well, that is the news for this week. So I think we're going to wrap it up there, unless you have any final thoughts before we end episode 50, Phil.
Well, you know what? I do have one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about, and that is I've been watching the Penguin Show on Max, and it's pretty incredible. Colin Farrell does such a good job under all that makeup. Like, his performance is... you really kind of empathize with Oz. If you saw the Batman movie, I think you kind of get, like, he stands out.
Yeah.
But that's just, if you're into that sort of realm of stuff, it is definitely an easy suggest. I know this is a games podcast, but...
Sure, yeah. Still nerdy related.
Yeah, check out the Penguin.
Yeah, I've been seeing lots of like memes and stuff like that online, where it's just like, it's Tony Soprano, but in the Batman universe.
Pretty much.
So, all right. Well, maybe I will check that out. I was just on Max last night, so maybe I'll hop back on that. But awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 50 of the GGG Podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. We've been streaming a little bit more often, so if you are interested in watching us stream, you can find us on Twitch at Golden Glaze Gaming. And if you're listening to the audio only version of the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we would love a like and follow over there as well. Now whispering for some reason. Yeah, I almost went full Joe Biden with that.
Hey, come on.
And by the way, have you seen SNL this week?
Oh, yeah. I love when we get to see presidents on SNL. The president, people playing presidents on SNL.
Yes, it's the best. It's historical. All right, everybody. Have a good week, and we will see you next time. Peace out.
Peace.